Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Mass Radio's What's the Big Dyl with myself, Dylan Foreman, and my two amazing co-hosts, Sarah Cornell-Maier and Zach Goff. Welcome. We've been off the air for a few weeks. We've been a little intermittent in terms of our broadcasting, but we're back now talking about PLU sports, Seattle sports, and national headlines. Before we get going, I just want to ask you guys, how you guys doing? I feel like I haven't seen you in a very long time. I miss seeing you around.
Yeah, so I actually quit the mast.
You did?
Yes, so I will be here every Tuesday now instead of 3 and then 1 off. So that's good news.
Sweet. And now you just have a lot more free time to
do
whatever.
You seem very happy about that.
I am. It's pretty great life change.
Oh, yeah.
I think, Dylan, you've done it too.
Being the sports editor last year really took up a lot of time that I could have been using elsewhere. But happy for you that you have free time on your hands to join us every Tuesday now at 9. Zach, how are you? You and me are kind of in the same boat. We both
tired.
are in the thick of our season for men's basketball, and our legs are a little tired.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. How's your leg, by the way? Your IT band. He's wearing tape right now on his IT band.
Yeah.
Keeps it on.
On both legs now. It's
on both legs.
Yeah. Yeah, now it's an issue with both legs. It's really fun.
Good stuff. And you're only a freshman, so 3 more years of pain.
Yeah.
And then you're right there.
I look forward to it.
Well, in studio with us today is 2 members of the PLU women's basketball team, junior Kristin Sturdivan and sophomore Kylie Rademacher. So we're going to talk with you guys about kind of how the season's been going. Obviously 4-9 to start off the year, 0-4 in conference, but I think there's some positives to be taken away. Kristin, first off, before we get into the questioning, how are you doing?
Doing good. Glad to be back from break, ready to play again.
Yes, exactly. And J-term's kind of a big month for us basketball players. It's the thick of our conference season. What I want to ask you first is, what's it like trying to mix in the few veterans you have with all the freshmen that you now play in the rotation?
It's been pretty good. Last year we had a lot of people that played a lot of minutes, so the freshmen had a lot of roles to fill, and they've done really good with learning the system, and they're really respectful, and I think the returners have done a good job trying to explain things and move at their pace, but also let the freshmen kind of jump in quickly and learn what we're doing.
So the last few years that I've watched you play, you've been more of a second or third option scoring-wise, but you've been in the starting lineup. Now, this season, you're more of the first or second option to the offense. So what's that kind of transition been like for you?
Well, I've had to definitely look for my shot more, or not just settle for kind of hiding in the corner, which I would rather kind of do sometimes. but it's been good. Yeah, coach has definitely looked for me more to add more points to the board, definitely. But Madison Salisbury also helps a lot. So having inside game makes the defense sometimes not focus on me as much. So it's nice.
And you've added a lot of different stuff to your game. You're not just a 3-point shooter anymore. You can drive and kick it and pass it and score the ball inside as well, which I remember talking to you earlier before the season started, and you're like, I can't dribble, I can't do all this, but you actually can. So I'm glad to see that you've now embraced that.
Yep. Actually have to go in the key.
Yes.
Normally I just stayed outside, but having to move in there now.
It's all those Chris Rice workouts.
Totally.
Really paying off.
Yep.
Also, another thing to add for this season for you is you were actually injured for a while to start the season, a foot injury, but how were you able to overcome the mental challenges of sitting out and not being able to play? Because you were out for a lengthy period of time and it wasn't really certain of when you were able to come back.
Yeah, so I broke my foot the second day of practice, and so I was definitely out for a while, but it was kind of nice to sit out because I saw a different side of the game. I could look at the things that we needed improvement with, or different things that we needed to see that sometimes you can't always see when you're on the court.
All right. So we also wanted to ask both of you, already the team's off to a better start than you have been in the past few years. What kind of things can you attribute to that?
I think a lot of it is just we play more together as a team. Last year we looked a lot for 1 or 2 people, and so this year we use our whole team to play, and we also get along better, so it's just easier to work together in practices and try to fight for the win at the end of the game.
Yeah, so kind of bouncing off that, obviously you guys spend a lot of time together. So what's the team dynamic, the camaraderie like?
We definitely like each other better. We have a lot of fun off the court too. And that really adds to our game because last year sometimes there were like conflicts or different things going on. And so this year we can really focus on just like being friends on the court and off the court. And so we know that we have each other's backs more so when we're on the court.
All right. And this is a pretty fun question. Who do you think is the funniest person on the team?
I would definitely say Madison Salisbury. She says the weirdest and strangest things, but they are so funny, and she's like so confident and just like calm and casual about it. Everything she says is just hilarious.
I can back that up.
Yeah,
too,
I don't know
her.
if you guys get to see a lot of the pictures that are taken during the games, but Madison's faces, 10 out of 10, the funniest of any of the pictures that you will ever see. Like, I do most of the graphics for you guys, and every single time Madison's going up, her face is just priceless.
Yeah, she always says like funny things in the game, like, "Okay, everyone, let's hold hands. We got to get together." Like, okay, great.
Yeah, she's funny.
All right, so we have a senior men's basketball player, Sean McLaughlin, on the line. Wants to talk about PLU women's basketball. I don't know if they'll be able to hear him because they don't have headphones, but we'll relay the information on to you. Sean, you're on air. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How are you, Dylan?
I'm very good. Is there anything you would like us to relay on to the PLU women's basketball players in studio with us right now?
I'm just kind of wondering about like the men's basketball team. We have a lot of new faces this year, and I'm just kind of wondering from like the girls basketball players' perspective, who's like a new player that's stepped up and kind of embraced the grind of the season, as well as maybe what Zach or Dylan has seen over the year as well.
Haley Marsh has added like some good points and taken on more of a leadership role. She comes in more than the average freshman and has like scored good points for us when we needed it.
You hear that, Sean?
Yeah, I heard that.
Thanks for calling in, buddy. I'll see you at home.
Pleasure, Dylan.
All right. Well, Kristin, Kylie, thank you for stopping in and to talk about PLU women's basketball. We look forward to seeing how the rest of the conference turns out for you all. Thanks for joining us. That was Kristin Sturdivan and Kylie Rademacher in studio talking PLU women's basketball. So before we move on to PLU men's, just giving some quick little updates on their season so far. So this last weekend, both the men and women's team traveled to Oregon to take on Linfield and George Fox. Their first game on Friday was against Linfield. They lost 66-60 in a very winnable game. Just couldn't maintain their lead that they had in that first half. Kristin Sturdivan had 17 points. Madison Salisbury with 16, and Emma Janasek with 11. The next day they followed it up with a George Fox game where they lost 59-7-3 in a game where pressure kind of took them out of rhythm. And Zach, you kind of agree with me, caused a lot of turnovers early and kept them in a frantic mode offensively, and it proved kind of difficult for them all the way throughout.
Yeah, I think both teams they played were pretty good. In that George Fox game, it seemed like they kind of put themselves maybe in a hole they couldn't quite scratch their way out of. But they played both games really hard. There were some really good points, some really exciting things to see as their team has really come together this season, like you were saying in the interview.
Yeah, so in that game, Madison Salisbury, actually she had 20 points at halftime, and then wasn't able to score in the second half. She had a monster first half and just wasn't able.
That's crazy.
I think George Fox probably just made some adjustments at halftime defensively, and they're pretty tall.
Makes sense when you have someone who scores 20 points in the first half that you're gonna make some adjustments.
Yeah.
She's fun to watch.
Yeah, very good post moves, very poised when she gets in there, and can also shoot a little mid range. As well.
Yeah, she can a little bit.
I mean, it's. Never mind.
What? No.
No, I did my math wrong. You're fine.
Okay.
Just keep going.
So moving on to PLU men's basketball, Zach, the team that you and I play for, we are 4-8 on the season, 1-3 in conference. We had a little bit of a rough stretch where we lost about 6 or 7 straight. And the Linfield game was kind of tough. We ended up losing that one 72-59, but we didn't shoot the ball particularly well, and we gave up an 18-2 run to end that first half, which put us down 16, and which dug us a hole we couldn't really get out of for the rest of that game. Then we followed it up with a really good performance on Saturday in George Fox in a much different game where we shot the ball confidently and played very well against a very good opponent the last couple of years.
Yeah.
They're in the playoffs last year. So
that was a really cool game. Just the ending was crazy. Just with Leighton's foul, then Ryan Lacey went to the line for George Fox, knocked down 2 free throws, so they're up by 1 after we were up by 1.
With about 10 seconds remaining.
Yeah, and then Zach Webb just took it in, got fouled, and same story as Ryan. He went to the line, made both free throws, and we won the game.
With about 1.9 seconds left.
Yeah.
But Leighton Kingma, person you just mentioned, finally found a shooting stroke, hit 6 of 11.
Good.
Yes.
I can't wait now.
So this weekend should hopefully be a continuation of that shooting performance. And then Marcus Glenn also stepped up, going 4 of 10 from the 3-point line and having 19 points. We really came together offensively. That was part of the reason why we kind of went on that dry streak for a while. It's just we couldn't always get the offense moving. So that was a really fun game. So
Yeah, no, especially hearing that Kingma had a good game. Like, he's been one of my favorites since the beginning of the season, but he's never quite lived up to his potential. So I'm really hoping that this is kind of a building point for him to actually get there. And then Marcus Glenn and Zach Webb are 2 of my favorite players, just because, like, after seeing them last year and how, like, little recognition they got last year and little playing time they got, and now seeing how much they're kind of, like, blossoming this year with the big name players like Brandon Lester not playing here anymore.
Wait,
graduated.
We're not your 2 favorite players?
No.
Okay.
Oh,
No, you are. I'm kidding you.
I mean,
guys.
I could understand me because
I've seen you play for, like, a minute.
Yeah,
but
I usually get to watch the games, but what about Dylan?
Dylan, you got a soft spot in my heart, like you both do.
Yes.
That was pity.
No, it's not.
It's not pity, Zach.
Okay.
How dare you? Don't take that away from me. And on that note, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back in a few minutes to talk the Seahawks and their bitter ending, a little bit of UW basketball and other things. So stay tuned and don't go away. We'll be right back after this short break. And welcome back to Mass Radio's What's the Big Dyl? Before we get into our Seattle sports segment, we want to remind you to feel free to call into the show at any time to talk about any of the teams, players, and or stories presented throughout the show. The number to call is 253-535-7332. That's 253-535-7332. It's good to hear Sean McLaughlin call in. Second time this year.
Yes, it is.
This time it wasn't really a random comment about Carmelo Anthony. It was on topic, so we appreciate him calling in and let that be kind of a motivation for other people to call in. And feel free to just chime in to whatever we're talking about. We're about to talk about the Seahawks. So if you have anything to say about what they should be doing in the offseason, what you think about certain players, feel free.
Yeah, let us know how you feel about Blair Walsh. We're open to that.
Oh, boy. We got some things to say on that last game. So, Sarah, do you want to give us a quick recap of what happened in that Cardinals game in Week 17?
Well, I mean, I feel like there was a pretty typical Seattle Seahawks storyline with that game. We had a rough first half, if I'm remembering this correctly.
Yes.
You know, we were down.
It's weird because it was like a couple weeks ago.
It was a couple weeks ago, so we are a little
behind the times.
A little distanced from this game, but it's
kind of
still fresh.
I've kind of flushed that game from my mind too.
No, this is it's a Mariners kind of thing for me this season. You know, like we kind of knew it was gonna happen. We had hopes, but we kind of knew as soon as everyone started getting injured. But you know, we were down at half. We're a pretty good second half team, and so like we were there, and we were right at the end, 26-24. 26-24. And our incredibly reliable kicker, Blair Walsh, right? Sets up for this field goal. It's something that in hindsight, he definitely should have made.
Oh yeah.
You know, he has made harder kicks throughout the season. Then again, he's not reliable, and so
Does get paid millions of dollars to kick a football.
he does, which
I don't know. I have a soft spot for kickers.
you know
a
I do.
little bit.
I
Yeah.
do too.
They got a
But
tough
Well, no,
job.
I've defended him all season, with everybody just hating on him.
Well, because
but-
before that game
hey,
where he
hey,
missed
boys, back to the focus. We'll talk about this in a
Okay.
second.
All
Sorry.
right.
But there are seconds left in the game, or like under a minute, and
Yeah.
he hooks it to the side. And you can just see the reactions on everyone's faces. Pete Carroll is in utter disbelief. Because this is the narrative that we'd seen from the earlier on this season, and lo and behold, it plays out again at the worst possible time.
Yeah.
You know, everyone was sitting on their couches joking that Blair Walsh was going to miss this field goal. And then when it actually happened, it's just one of those moments where everyone is just so disheartened
Yeah.
by the fact that we had this chance. Like, maybe things were going to go our way at this very end of this rough season. And it didn't.
Yeah.
But as it turns out, make or miss on that field goal didn't really matter because the Panthers lost the Falcons in a game that was happening simultaneously with the Seahawks game, and basically the Panthers needed to beat the Falcons and the Seahawks needed to win in order to advance, and both those things didn't happen, so it didn't really matter.
Cam
It's just kind of icing on top of the cake.
Cam Newton had his worst game of the season that game.
Yeah, it was
Just
pretty bad.
thanks for nothing,
It
Cam.
just
It was like
That's
the
it.
one time where Seattle fans were rooting for Cam
yeah.
Newton to play well.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, they didn't even have that game, any of those scores playing in the stadium at all.
That's right. Yeah, they
Yeah.
made sure that game wasn't in the stadium all because they just wanted to win the game no matter what. But
Yeah.
I mean, Blair Walsh missed a field goal. We lost the game. We're 2 picks higher in the draft. So
Yeah, I mean, but we can't talk about some of the good things that happened in that game.
yeah,
We
well, yeah,
had
of course.
a punt return for a touchdown. We have not had one of those
Yes.
for a long time.
Yeah, it was probably probably early last season, I think.
Yeah,
Same thing. Tyler Lockett.
he
So,
will always be one of my favorites.
Yeah.
So I feel like you have a lot of favorites.
I do, and they're
A lot
all
of
on Seattle
favorites.
teams. No one else.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
I can live with that.
So I guess one of the big themes, not themes, but narratives going in
There
is
you
just
go.
a lot of what ifs for the Seahawks
Yeah.
roster, both
Definitely.
defensively and offensively. A lot of changes that might need to be made. It's now confirmed that Pete Carroll will be on for the 2018-2019 season.
I
He's not
loved
going
his
anywhere.
comment too. When they asked him, he's like, "I'm too young to retire from coaching."
Yeah.
He's
He's
like
the oldest coach.
oldest
in the league.
coach in the NFL, and
Yeah.
he's like, "I'm too young." It's like,
I mean,
I'll
he's
take
in
it.
better shape than a majority of those coaches, anyways.
Oh,
That's
you
true.
know that man gets his 10,000 steps in per
Oh,
day.
absolutely.
Easily.
he's totally yeah. You could totally see him on the treadmill,
With his
checking
Fitbit.
his Fitbit watch and everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Chewing gum, that's probably
Oh yeah.
A lot of kinetic energy.
burning a lot of calories
on
just
there.
there, you know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. For sure.
But the futures of Cliff Averill and Cam Chancellor are up in the air, both with suffered neck
bad.
injuries.
Yeah.
I mean, from what I remember, Cam Chancellor is a brighter outlook. They are thinking that he's going
And-
to be back
Yeah, and he is
fairly
younger.
soon, and he is younger, and he is incredibly strong.
Yeah,
And,
he's
you know, that
played
does
his
help.
whole career in Seattle, and Averill he played a couple other places before he came here, and actually was really good. So
Mhm.
I could see it being time for Averill to retire because he's kind of getting there anyway. So
But I mean, that's just something that we'll have to wait and see.
yeah,
You know, there's still time.
and our defensive line is pretty stacked right now, so this is as good a time as any really to lose a guy like Averill. I mean, you don't want to, but if we have to, then this is as good a time as any for him to kind of go out, and not on a bad note either. So
Yeah, there are definitely worse times for him to leave, and I
Yeah.
think this would be okay,
It-
as long as Cam Chancellor comes back.
yeah,
Well, as long as we keep Earl. Earl is the real
Yes.
off season.
Yes.
guy you
Earl
need to
Thomas.
retain, even more so than Cam, because Earl just kind of is the backbone of that defense and
Yeah,
has
that
been
is true.
That's
for the
fair.
last few
Yeah,
years.
because we've lost Cam here and there with injuries, and
Mhm.
when Earl's gone, it's a different defense.
Yeah.
Right. Another offseason defensive personnel question is Michael Bennett stay or leave? Do you put up with his antics or his attitude on the field? Not necessarily the off-field stuff. I mean, that stuff's pretty manageable and it's fine. It's more the stuff he does during games when they're losing, stuff he did against Jacksonville, stuff poor attitude, things he does on the field that affect the image of the Seahawks.
Yeah, I don't think his attitude, because I've always been big with this. Like, I think the staff and stuff with the Seahawks handles attitude players really well. Mm-hmm. Like, Marshawn Lynch had serious attitude issues and off-field issues, and he came to Seattle, and now it's non-existent. I don't think it would be an attitude issue. I think if anything, it's just like age and price. He's really expensive. He's getting towards the end of his career, just like Averill. They're kind of in the same similar boat. Obviously, Averill's injured, but so I mean, it just depends if we want to keep paying how much he costs, and I mean, he only has a few more years left in him, I think. So I don't know.
I mean, I feel like another thing, and this is definitely something that's very Seahawks right now, is when Michael Bennett gets frustrated or gets tired or anything like that, he starts to give up penalties more often, especially towards the end of games. And I think that if we go with stay, then he has to learn to be able to control that. Yeah. Because the penalty thing has been huge for Seattle. Mm-hmm. Most penalties in the league for
who knows how
the entire
long.
season.
Like, since we actually started getting really good. The past 5 years.
And a lot of the times towards the end of the game, he's one of the people that contributes to that, and that can make a difference in whether we win or lose. And I feel like if he is to stay, that needs to be something that's worked on. And I guess that is a whole team thing as well.
Definitely.
That's
and
definitely
an offensive line thing.
Yeah,
but yeah, the defense has gotten a lot of calls lately.
Yeah.
In the past,
and
the
years. Yardage lost on those calls.
It's crazy
painful.
to see those stats, like how many yards we've lost in penalties.
First in the league, I'm pretty sure.
And I'm pretty sure it wasn't even
absolutely.
close. It wasn't even close.
No, it was by a wide
correctly.
margin.
Yeah.
So, yeesh.
So other things that need to be fixed in this offseason, obviously, we talked about it all year, is the running back situation. I mean, yes, some teams can live on running back by committee. You see the New England Patriots perfected that. That
and
in
Saints
New England. But for the Seahawks, it doesn't look like they have one solid running back who they can rely on. In New England, they have Dion Lewis, who's a great back. They had LeGarrette Blount for a while. They have James White, who's
Rex Burkhead.
Yeah, Rex Burkhead, exactly.
Crazy.
They're very good at utilizing running backs to their strengths, but it seems like the Seahawks is just a cluster of running backs who aren't necessarily consistent all the way throughout the season.
And we've got some pretty good pass catching backs, like McKissick and Procise, but there's been, like you said, there's been so many injuries. It's really hard, and you got to have a back that, our line isn't the greatest, but you got to have a back that can, hit holes hard enough to just get a few yards, so then the next play, Russ is throwing the ball for 2nd and 5 instead of 2nd and 10. It's just small yardage backs and stuff, just trying to help us move the ball up the field. We could never get that going. Russell Wilson led our team in rushing yards almost every game. So, we have some young guys, Chris Carson and Mike Davis. So if one of them, it'll be cool to see if, they're both healthy, see some competition there, and
if you
maybe they both
the line
play
a little bit.
Yeah.
Get one good draft pick, trade for another. You have Dwayne Brown already in the mix, and he's trained up the ones that are still remaining.
Yeah, Dwayne Brown and oh man, I'm gonna forget our Justin Britt.
Oh.
Those two were so solid. But if we can get one or two other guys just around them, just strengthen it just a little bit, just those holes are a little bigger. I think that'll be huge too for the running back situation.
That'll make Russell Wilson's life a heck of a lot easier.
And if Russell Wilson's life is easier, he can do better at his job.
Yeah, and he can just win us a bunch of more games like he did this year.
This is true.
I feel like one of the things that we're definitely coming back to right now is that what happens this offseason is really formative to how we're going to do next season.
Oh, yeah.
And that's always how it is.
Yeah. This could either be where the Seahawks kind of restart and rebuild, or we find a way to keep this like 5-year like dynasty that we've started going. It's a really big like turning point for the organization here.
Yeah.
A couple other free agent questions still that are maybe looming in this offseason is whether or not Jimmy Graham will still be a part of the Seahawks.
Yeah.
And then re-signing Sheldon Richardson. And Sarah, you were talking in pre-show is maybe letting go of John Ryan.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't want to see John Ryan go.
Yeah.
Like,
I've
I
always
love the
liked him.
Gingers.
He was not like getting his punts very high though this year.
No,
a lot of them
he-
were like line drives, and that's not what you want.
No, he did have a couple pretty rough punts.
But it's John Ryan.
He's the longest tenured Seahawk on the roster right now, which is kind of cool.
He's like the Nick Collison of the Seahawks.
Yes, I like
Who's still
that
on the
comparison.
Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah, he still plays for the Thunder.
Yeah,
Like what, 10 years after they?
after they left.
Yeah, that is true. That's funny. I like that.
Was
Yeah.
that a basketball?
It is
Hey.
a
Oklahoma
basketball
City
reference.
Thunder used to be the Sonics.
Yep. All right. There we go.
We're good.
There it is.
This is
good.
the whole domain of sports that
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like.
And it's kind of too bad about Jimmy Graham, especially
Who
since
was
he
playing
like started
really
playing
well.
really well this year. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But who was it? It was like Rappaport or something. Someone on Twitter, or no, maybe it was Softy, the guy that does KJR. I think he.
Dave Softy Mahler.
Yeah. He said something like Jimmy like saw the media and stuff, and he walked out. Like he looked like he was done. Like for some whatever reason, I don't know.
I mean,
He's obviously not
that's
playing
more.
the same.
I guess that's more speculation. We won't really know till probably further in the off-season process
yeah,
of what
for
will happen.
sure.
But
I
it'd be
mean,
nice to keep him around.
it'd be nice, but he has a track record of messing up when it's needed the least. Like when his mistakes could change the course of the game. So I think it was the
Yeah.
last game where he dropped a pass that could have gotten us a touchdown.
Yeah.
He was maybe 5 yards away from the goal, and he tried to stand up instead of just taking the pass
Oh.
and dropped it. And that was
Yeah,
something
that
that
was
could have
bad.
won us that game. Like, yes, retrospectively, winning that game wouldn't have changed our position at all. It would have gotten us a worse draft pick. But
It's still winning a game.
it's still winning a game.
And another issue I think has been a constant theme in his career is his ability as a run blocker. Because as a tight end, it's a two-full job. Obviously, I mean, he used to play basketball. He's a fantastic athlete. He can go up and grab any ball and compete for any ball and be one of
Yeah.
the greatest receiving tight ends in the league. But he misses blocks
Bad.
much more frequently than you'd want out of your star tight end. And so
Yeah.
it's just one of those things.
And I think Luke Wilson is also a free agent. So I mean, I'd be content with like Jimmy Graham going and just holding on to Luke Wilson.
Yeah.
I mean, he's obviously not the same by any means. Or if maybe we just draft a tight end, since we've never really been like a big team to throw the ball to our tight ends anyway.
I mean, the Wilson to Wilson connection, though, like, you gotta love that.
Yeah.
Not only is the name combination great, but I feel like that's a pretty solid connection. Shut up, Dylan.
It's a great reason.
Yeah.
That is a great
great
reason.
reason.
You know, that's what I base a lot of my
Hey,
sports on.
you know what?
initially.
Luke
If it sounds good,
Luke
it is
Wilson
good.
actually hits his blocks though.
Exactly.
Yes.
He hits his blocks and he can be consistent.
And his last name's Wilson.
Yeah,
It's
isn't it spelled
Wilson.
differently?
Those
So two L's.
Yeah.
There you go. Now she likes that.
So taking a
Yeah.
step
Very
away from the Seahawks, we'll obviously give you the free agent news as it goes along in the offseason and as we go throughout the NFL playoffs. You thought UW football news was over
Almost.
due
We
to their
hoped.
bowl, due to the Fiesta Bowl having passed, but it's not.
Not yet.
Recent reports have said that Jacob Eason, current backup quarterback for Georgia, who is expected to transfer after being benched. He was started last year as a freshman for Georgia at a Lake Stevens High School, former Gatorade Player of the Year in Washington State and high school standout. He is being reported that he will transfer to UW. Will sit out a year and then have 2 more years of eligibility for UW after Jake Browning graduates.
Yeah, that's perfect timing.
And a lot of that probably in part because he was benched for now freshman star Jake Fromm, who took over and led Georgia to a national championship berth where they ended up losing to Alabama, but we will talk about that in the next segment. But I thought that was just pretty cool news if you're a UW fan. You get a homeborn star coming back to Seattle
coming back home.
Try and continue under Chris Peterson's reign as head coach of UW and continue to try to win football games in the coming seasons. So moving on from UW football, we have UW men's basketball. It's a quick update on them. They're 12-4 on the season, 2-1 in the Pac-12 conference. Just beat WSU on Saturday, 60-55. Their new coach,
Gotta love that.
Mike Hopkins, has done a fantastic job, in my opinion, utilizing players that were already in the program and getting them to play well together. They play a extended 2-3 zone, the one that Syracuse runs, which was Mike Hopkins' former school that he was assistant coach at.
Yeah.
And so they look a lot better.
What's his name? Dickerson?
Noah Dickerson.
Noah Dickerson. I like him. He's a man.
Matisse Steibel.
Yeah.
He's good. David Crisp.
And like you said, those are guys that were already there, and he's found ways to make them even better than they already were. And so I was not expecting this season out of him.
No.
So
I'm their
I'm
only
happy
bad
about
losses have just been Gonzaga, really, at home, and that's been their only loss at home. They're 9-1 at home, so they're playing really well, and we'll probably make a nice little push in the Pac-12 conference going at this rate. So that's all we have for Seattle sports. Don't go away. We got some hot takes coming up in the world of national headlines and national sports. You're not going to want to miss it. Just a quick reminder, if you want to call in for our last segment, the number to call in is 253-535-7332. And with that, we'll be back in just a few minutes. Welcome back to Mass Radio's What's the Big Deal? We want to remind you to feel free to call into the show at any time to talk about any of the teams, players, and or stories presented throughout the show. The number to call is 253-535-7332. That's 253-535-7332. I'm used to saying my phone number, so I want to say 425.
Do you give out your number a lot, Dylan?
Yeah, it's 425. Anyways, we're now going to be talking about.
Going to do it for a second.
Why not? Trying to promote my show, man.
I mean, I could look it up instead.
Please don't. Anyways, we're going to talk about national headlines now in the world of sports. First, we got the NFL playoffs, which is kind of the big thing being talked about right now, aside from the national championship, which we'll get into in just a minute. Right now in the AFC, matchups are going to be the Titans versus the Patriots. Titans won their wild card against the Chiefs in very unorthodox fashion, as Marcus Mariota pulled a rabbit out of his hat and pulled off a win, an unlikely win at that.
Yeah, definitely.
And Jaguars and Steelers. And then on the NFC, you got the Falcons versus the Eagles, as well as the Saints and Vikings. And I think Saints are kind of hitting their peak in playoffs, as Drew Brees is playing like Hall of Famer Drew Brees, and they still have Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram to rely back onto for running back.
Just the fact that their run game is like the best part of their offense is like weird for the Saints. It's like never been like that.
Okay, pause. But when you say you think they're hitting their peak, do you think that means they're going to plateau, or do you think that means they're going to win
I think
the whole
that
thing?
means just they're playing their best football now in the postseason. And they
I think they're still going up.
Yeah.
Like they're getting there. Like they should like hit their peak when it comes down to like however far they make it. You know, I think they're way better than a 4th seed. That's just kind of how it worked out with the NFC this year. But that is a really good Saints team. I think they should beat the Vikings.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think they're a better team than the Vikings. I don't know. The Vikings defense is just really good though, so that might be the deciding factor there.
I think it'll be Falcons Saints in the NFC Championship, because I think Is Nick as good as a quarterback as Nick Foles is, and the rest of the pieces they still have?
That's bold, yeah.
At Philadelphia as well, I think Matt Ryan and the Falcons are starting to hit their peak as well, offensively at least.
Well, I sure hope
Matt
so,
Ryan's had
because they were
stagnant.
playing. Falcons were playing as bad as we were at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
Nah, I don't know. I'm gonna go Eagles. I have pretty much no basis in that statement besides the fact that I like
At least
them.
you're honest.
Hey, it got me to the college playoffs.
That's
yeah,
true.
that is true.
That's true.
Yeah, that's up next. That is true.
Quick predictions. What's the Super Bowl matchup?
Ooh.
What do you think? We didn't talk about this before the show, so this is.
I'm gonna go bold, and with the teams that I like, that like I have faith in, that I am gonna say Steelers Saints.
Steelers Saints.
I don't know. The Saints are really good. That's really bold for that NFC, but I think the Steelers should come out on top in the AFC.
Sarah, who do you got?
I'm gonna go Patriots Eagles.
The ones.
Yeah, because
What happened to rooting for the underdog, Sarah?
Underdogs.
Choosing the underdog.
I like the underdog, so I'm gonna pick the 4 and
That's-
3 for the
that's-
college football playoff.
that's in athletics that I don't pay attention to.
Gotcha.
With this, like the Patriots are such a legacy team.
I agree.
They have such a backing behind them. They have so
Legacies
much
can end.
that goes into that.
And the greatest quarterback of all time.
God,
So
you sound
sorry.
like Rob Thompson.
So sorry. Me and Rob have actually talked about our man crush for Tom Brady.
Yeah,
We've had like a 30-minute discussion on it.
I think he
I'm
tried to
sorry
buy
for
those
anybody
like
that heard
pajamas that are supposed to be like scientifically proven
The-
to
oh,
help
the-
you sleep like an athlete.
The Tom Brady brand
Yeah.
ones. Ugh.
Yeah.
I've wanted to get his gear, but it's
Gross.
just so expensive. It's so expensive. It's like it's
I'm
called
I'm
TB12.
happy. I'm happy you haven't.
Nah,
Yeah,
but
just
anyways,
because of that, next show I'm gonna come in with a TB12 beanie.
anyways, back to the NFL. I gotta say I'm going with the Eagles because my boyfriend's from Pennsylvania. So there's
Okay.
like a bit of secondhand like loyalty there, but
Okay.
Fair enough.
Okay.
other than
I
that,
can respect that. How about you, Dylan?
I got Patriots and Falcons.
Hmm.
I got a rematch.
Falcons, really?
I have Patriots. I just think, like the Saints, I think it'll be Saints Falcons. I think Falcons will somehow find a way. Matty Ice is, he hasn't played well throughout the course of the season. He has stepped up in big moments before, and he's such a very smart quarterback and prepares very well. I think he has a lot to lose if he wins that game, and so he's going to be playing at a very, very high level in that NFC Championship game, which will propel him
I think
to
the
a
only-
loss in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Wow. Sure. Yeah, against the Steelers, probably.
Against the Patriots.
Patriots.
I think the only thing I do know is that Titans will not win this round. I
think
can
that's
say
a
that.
constant thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we can be.
I don't.
I like Marcus Mariota.
I still don't understand how they have made it into the divisional round of the playoffs, just with how poorly they've played at times this year.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just my opinion.
They
I just
kind of
don't
just sneaked in.
how they have a
And
10-7
they beat the
record.
Seahawks.
That was bad.
That was
Yeah,
bad.
we don't talk about that.
Every. I mean, the Redskins beat the Seahawks too. So I mean,
Sure.
What is that?
Transit. We could do transitive properties
Oh dear.
all day long for that.
oh man.
So moving on from the NFL, we're going to not quickly talk about, we can dive into the national championship for college football that happened last night. Sarah, ding, 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 predicted the college football playoff correctly out of us three.
A little humble brag here. The one who knew the least about college football.
Cause I like underdogs.
Yeah, she chose, her rationale was choosing the 3 and the 4 seed because they were the
Yeah.
underdogs.
Worked
Even though
out.
Bama has now won 5 championships in the last 9 years. But in this particular year, they were the 4 seed.
Yeah.
The
Which is
underdog
weird.
in
Yeah.
quotations.
Yeah.
Alabama ends up beating Georgia 26-23. Georgia led 20-7 in the third quarter. But there was a little
What a
revelation in that second half for Alabama fans as Jalen Hurts, their normal starting QB, was benched at the end of the first half after going 3 of 8 and only throwing for 21 yards in the first half and scoring no points. They instead, Coach Nick Saban subs in Tua Tagovailoa, a true freshman from Hawaii, inserts him as the starting QB, and then finished the game with 166 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. So talk about a bold move, not only from Nick Saban, but bold playing from a true freshman with being thrust into the limelight in a game that means everything for Alabama fans after losing last year to Clemson. So that was actually a very cool storyline. It's for as much as I don't like Alabama, I think that was a very cool thing to see.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, and Zach and I were talking about this quarterback, and he has the kind of like situational awareness that you see in NFL quarterbacks as a true freshman already.
Yeah.
Like having the ability to have a target and then change that target when things are going poorly and hit that target in the end zone is something that you see from NFL quarterbacks.
A lot of people have been saying he's like the left-handed Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which Russ had.
Is it because he kind of looks like him though?
No,
I mean,
like there's.
I think it has more to do with his pocket presence than anything else.
Yeah. I mean, like
him.
he's good with his feet. He's had really good pocket awareness and stuff. Arm's a little questionable though. So I mean, at least in college, Russ's arm was a little questionable. So I mean,
and we're just gonna keep coming back to the fact that he's a true freshman.
Yeah.
Like that's an impressive showing.
True freshman won national championship. I think it was probably his first start, wasn't it? I can't imagine.
First start, he had some playing time throughout this season because there's blowout wins.
Yeah, because I mean, Jalen Hurts. There's no way Jalen Hurts probably missed any other games. So yeah, that first time actually playing and he wins the national championship. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
But I mean, just think about the situation if you're Coach Saban. Your starting quarterback, Jalen Hurts, is 26-2 in his career so far as a quarterback for Alabama.
Yeah.
Gets benched, and then Tua Tagovailoa just comes in and 3 interceptions. Like you said, great pocket presence. We see it. 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Great pocket presence, and like you said, his arm and his presence in the pocket, being able to look off defenders, as shown in that overtime touchdown that won them the game. 41-yard bomb after taking a 16-yard sack that takes them pretty much out of field goal range for the Alabama kicker, and then just delivers a dime to Devontae Smith, another freshman, the receiver, on the end.
And it's funny too, because me and like my dad and my brothers were watching this game, and we kind of like none of us saw the play happen. Like we all like looked down or something. We got distracted by something, and we look up, and all of a sudden, we see Smith running the ball in the end zone. We're like, wait, what? Like what just happened? Like
No, I had that same exact reaction.
Like it was, I don't know, it was weird. Like the game kind of came to a standstill for a second. And all of a sudden, just 41-yard touchdown. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
that happened.
I was actually listening to this game with the sound off because my roommate was already asleep. And so I like looked away from the screen for a minute because I was getting ready for bed because I had not expected it to take this long. And I looked back, and all of a sudden there were like people on the field, and I was like, oh, someone won the game already? Like I missed that. But it happened so fast, and it was a very unexpected play. Yeah. That it turned out.
Yeah, even if you don't like Bama, it was a cool way to win and stuff, especially with the quarterback situation and all. So.
And also, speaking of that quarterback situation, I think the way Jalen Hurts reacted to being benched. Here's him in his post-game interview on the field talking about that experience being benched. We'll give you a quick snippet of what he was talking about.
Here with Jalen Hurts. Jalen, you've just been shaking your head. You've had that smile on your face. Your reaction when you found out Tua was going to start the second half, honestly.
He was going to step in and do his thing. We have a lot of guys in the QB room that play really well, and he stepped in and did his thing. Did his thing for the team.
In every offensive huddle, you were right there next to him throughout the second half and overtime. What was your message to him?
Ball. Play your game. Ball. He's destined for stuff like this. He's built for stuff like this. He has that it factor, and I'm so happy for him, happy for this team.
What does it mean to you to be a national champion?
It's unbelievable. I dreamed about this.
I mean, just by those remarks there, I mean, that's one of the coolest things you could honestly see out of your leader of the team after being benched, after playing terrible in the biggest stage of the season. And to react in that way, granted, you could say he's saying that for public perception, but I truly think the type of person he seems to come off as, he truly means the words that he's saying.
It looks genuine too. Like I've seen this interview before. Like he was just happy like they won. Like he wasn't concerned about like his playing time. He wanted the team to win and was willing to do like whatever it took, even if it meant watching from the sidelines. So
yeah, and if you see some clips of him on the sidelines during that second half, he was incredibly supportive of his teammates. He was over there motivating them, giving them advice, like congratulating them when things went well. And that's, you know, the kind of like sportsmanship and teammate mentality that you want on a team.
Yeah, you want that out of any teammate. That's really cool. So
definitely I think maybe one of the best national championships of all time. Maybe you could argue better than Texas USC with Vince Young. You could argue maybe better than last year's with Clemson and Bama, but
and
definitely
I
up there.
predicted it all. Humble brag. It's not so humble anymore.
Yeah, it's not humble at all.
Yeah.
I think it's the third time you brought it up. Anyways, moving on.
Keeping track.
Well, yeah, I mean.
Moving on from college football, talking about a little change in the NFL. John Gruden is now the new head coach for the Oakland Raiders. He coached the Raiders from 1998 to 2001, then from 2002 to 2008 was the head coach for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where he won a Super Bowl in his first year. Since then, he's been a color analyst for Monday Night Football, where he's been very popular. I think a lot of us can agree that he's just kind of fun to listen to. There's obviously the spider too wide banana joke that's always on Twitter or always goes around. But very good at looking at the game from an analytics point of view. Very good at dissecting different play calls. A very offensive-minded coach like his brother Jay, who's the head coach for the Washington Redskins. So it'll be fun to see him back in the league. You know that?
No.
Yeah.
Do they ever play each other?
I'm sure they do. They're on the same division.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see where he takes Derek Carr.
His name means something like in the NFL. Like he's a legendary coach. And like I know the Buccaneers had like some sort of ceremony for him like towards the end of the season and stuff for what he did in Tampa Bay. But yeah, that's a big deal, and his contract is huge. It's like a $100 million contract or something like that over 10 years. Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah, and I've been
Jean-Carlos Stanton
of
NFL coaches.
Yeah, but apparently in the like press conference he said I don't have a guarantee to be alive for 10 years and laughed about it or something, like trying to downplay the contract. I don't know.
That's very funny.
That's just a funny comment.
I mean, wouldn't you downplay the contract?
Apparently they offered him like some like ownership of the team too, like when they first offered him like the contract. Like it was these crazy
really
lucrative contracts. Yeah. Well, I mean, the Raiders did not play very well for how well they're supposed to do this year and the talent they had.
That's
part
fair.
of this Derek Carr playing poorly, but
That's fair.
yeah. So
with that, thanks for listening and tuning in to Mass Radio's What's the Big Deal. We'll be back next week, Tuesday at 9 p.m. Make sure to tweet us your thoughts for ideas, concerns, opinions. We'd love to address them on social media and on the show. You can follow us at our new Twitter account, at What's the Big Deal DYL, and then the number 1 because What's the Big Deal was taken. I just had to get creative.
no, we're just number 1.
True.
Yeah.
Go Lutz.
I'll also number 2 or below.
Go Lutz.
Go Lutz.
So you can follow us.
Away.
That's again at What's the Big Deal 1. That's DYL. You can share your thoughts or just follow us for updates on what will be going on in the world of sports for PLU athletics, or if you want to tweet at us, you're more than welcome to. That's our show for this week. Thanks for tuning in, and have a great week, and go Lutz.